With the school year just getting underway for many college students, there's no better time to talk about financial aid than now. Not for this school year, but for the next. Here to share his expertise is Patrick Ziegler, Independent Advisor Representative at Innovative Advisory Group in Massachusetts. And Patrick, it's good to have you with us. And whether we're talking about Massachusetts, South Carolina, doesn't matter. When it's time to file the FAFSA, every student across the land needs to know that now is the time, right?
Yeah, we're getting very close to that time. Now, typically the FAFSA would open up on October 1, so it's important that families know the feds have pushed that off due to some changes they've made to the FAFSA through what they call FAFSA simplification and some changes to the aid formula. But we're talking about December here as the time frame for which families who have students going off to college next year need to be ready to file that FAFSA. And you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter if you're in South Carolina or Massachusetts. For my part, I'm sitting here in New York. Makes no difference. That's the application families need to start with, is that FAFSA, that free application for federal student aid. And that's going to help them initiate that financial aid process no matter where they're going to school, whether they're staying in state, going out of state, makes no difference. So you're absolutely right. Families need to get ready for that FAFSA opening up in December so that they can apply and be eligible for all the different forms of financial aid for the coming year for their student. And I'll tell you this, it's so important that families file the FAFSA that independent research has been done that shows that literally billions of dollars in financial aid goes unused every year. Wow. Because families who are eligible did not file the FAFSA. So this is critically important, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, you have nearly 3 decades of experience in higher education financing on both ends of the spectrum, from where you're sitting today and also in the lending sector. So what are the hiccups along the way that you see typical amongst families when applying or not applying to get into college and getting some of that assistance, some of that financial assistance that's so crucial?
Yeah, I think it starts right away once again with completing the FAFSA and pointing back to that research I discussed earlier. I mean, billions of dollars in Pell Grants, which is really the federal building block for all financial aid, go unused annually. So, we used to have a saying here in New York, the lottery team used to say, you got to be in it to win it. And it's kind of the same thing with financial aid. The first step is really applying. Now, obviously, if we back it up just a little bit, families that have been preparing for that high cost of college, that had a financial plan in place, maybe they've had a 529, maybe they've been looking for scholarships, outside scholarships, community scholarships for several years already, they'll be a little bit better positioned. So having spent a little bit more time before that junior or senior year is certainly helpful. And those families that don't have a real financial plan in place, those families typically see higher borrowing over the cost or over the course of the college experience. And that, of course, can reduce financial outcomes or limit financial outcomes for the long term for those students. So we really want all families to apply for all forms of financial aid, get every grant and scholarship possible from the federal government, from their state governments, if applicable, from the institutions themselves, and really keep that cost of college down and reduce that overall debt load. So the biggest hiccup I would say we're seeing today is that families don't apply for financial aid. They don't think they'll be eligible for financial aid. The students don't necessarily apply for scholarships. There's a lot of free money out there. They don't consider different types of colleges to see who might give them more money. Different schools have different allotments for financial aid. And that it ends up with students really borrowing more money than they need to over that time in college.
So they need to cast a wide net. So they really should be casting a wide net when it comes to not just applying to colleges, but also applying to student aid. And student aid comes in a few different forms. It's grants, scholarships, student loans. But the FAFSA, I mean, let's not kid ourselves, thank you government for trying to simplify the process, but anybody knows who's opened up a FAFSA application, it is a very complicated document. And it takes a lot of input from your family and from yourself to fill in all of the boxes. So how do you know that you're doing it the right way and you're ensuring that you're going to come out in the end with as much money as you possibly can to fund your future?
Yeah, that's a great question. And a couple of things I would recommend to families right off the bat. And the first is start early. I mean, there's nothing telling a family that even though the FAFSA hasn't opened up yet, so they can't complete the application just yet, and they won't be able to on October 1st, that actually gives them a couple more months to start doing some research on what it is they will need to put on that FAFSA application, what information is required, so they can start that process early. Families need to make sure that they have their tax forms that they filed this past April, both for the parents and for the student, so that they can have that information at the ready, and there won't be any surprises when they start completing the FAFSA and it says that they need the total tax paid in 2022. That won't be a surprise to the family. They'll have that information right there. They can complete the application in one sitting. So take the time now to get all the documentation together, have all that information prepared. Secondarily, have the parent and student complete what they call a federal student aid or FSA ID. Do that early. That way you don't have to worry about doing it on December 28th or 30th or 31st, whenever that application opens up. You'll be prepared. You'll have all the information you need and you can get started.
Yeah.
So that's number one. Number two, depending what state you're in, and it really makes no difference, there are wonderful people in the financial aid community who typically host, and I should add state agencies as well. State agencies do a great job of this, of hosting FAFSA seminars. So FAFSA completion events. Sometimes they're at a high school or at a college campus. Sometimes they're done virtually. If you have questions, if you think you're going to struggle with this, get on a call here in the fall. Look for your local state agency. Here we have HESC in New York State. Look at your state agency in South Carolina. Right. Start looking for FAFSA completion events, FAFSA workshops. Find out what your student's high school is doing. They'll have a financial aid night, and get that information that you need so you're prepared to complete the FAFSA.
And with just a few seconds left, what's number three?
Number three is get the application done on time. In other words, all colleges and universities will have a priority deadline for financial aid. Some aid is going to be an entitlement. If you apply, you're eligible, you get it. Others, first come, first serve. Find out the priority deadlines at the institutions to which you're applying and get all those applications done early.
Patrick, thank you so much. Excellent advice. Can't wait to have you back.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much for the time.
We're back in 2 minutes.